Hello, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining me. This is Broadcom, that's AVGO, A for Apple. They are trying to acquire VMware, who you're probably aware of, huge companies, these two. I know a chap who works for Broadcom, and they've been doing very well. Their chart just keeps going up. That's it on the 2-day time frame. I mean, the flash was pretty good there. 160 from 297, so you got a 50% move off that V-shaped pincer, and then price action, boom, 800 plus. Now they're trying to merge with Broadcom, but it's such a huge merger that there's antitrust authorities, regulators investigating it in every jurisdiction: Europe, America, Britain, China, everywhere, Korea, everywhere, and they've constantly got lawsuits going on, which could be material to the share price. So part of the reason that Broadcom just keeps going up again today is because of the progress with these antitrust reviews, particularly in China. On Wednesday and Thursday, news came out that the Chinese are assigning a level of legal analysis at a very early stage, which is taken to be positive news in that they're seriously considering approving the merger. Recent reports indicate that China's State Administration for Market Regulation is taking that step by appointing external economists to look at the deal. It's a very complicated deal. Broadcom themselves have got such a deep position, strategic position within the smartphone market that all major suppliers have to take note of their place in the market. For example, Samsung, who get much of their critical parts to all of their smartphones from Broadcom. It's the phase 2 of the review in China, and it's a favorable indication that the Chinese antitrust regulator has appointed external economists. Furthermore, Reuters have been saying earlier in the week that Broadcom is expected to secure the conditional antitrust approval from the European Union for their VMware merger. That's contingent upon Broadcom's commitment to providing interoperability remedies. Right, and I'll touch on that in a minute, because if this all goes wrong, Broadcom will collapse, and if the price does go down on Broadcom due to these particular type of threats, it could crater. But if everything goes through, then I expect this long-term, never interrupted uptrend to continue. And it's a super complicated deal. I'll get back to that in a second. In the US, the Federal Trade Commission, and in the UK, the antitrust regulator, are also investigating this merger, and they're doing comprehensive reviews because there's so many problems with the compliance, which we have seen in Korea. If you're following Broadcom's story, in Korea, the KFTC, not KFC, rejected the voluntary corrective plan that Broadcom put forward. They've been accused of unfairly forcing Samsung to sign long-term contracts for all of the supply of essential components within the smartphones. And the KFTC said that it was dismissing that plan, and they thought it was a little bit ridiculous. They also think quite clearly that Broadcom have been abusing their dominance in that market. It's the first time that the KFTC have ever rejected a resolution of this nature, so it seems significant. So I'd be keeping an eye on Broadcom. This is the uptrend. You can go back to the beginning of the stock and see that it just keeps going. If you're looking at it, say, on 4-hour time frame, you see these flashes to the top side when it's in an uptrend. That's very good. This was a flash fill on the 2 days we spoke about. So, and then on the daily, there is the potential this thing could collapse, but it has recently filled a flash, exceeded its previous high, above both the moving averages, and pushing to the top side. You're strongly positioned within the bullish control zone, and even pushing up above there. into massively oversold. Still on the retracement, held that bullish posturing on the momentum. So that's really quite strong. And if it does push up higher, you'll be looking at extensions. And with this breakout trade, if it does now exceed that prior high at 924, it would go crazy, yo, go crazy. You might be looking at extension on this guy. That's the 1618 where it is at the minute. And if it pushes up higher, you could be looking at something up at around 1,400 come to this time, couple of years' time. Wouldn't be surprised. So that's Broadcom. GME had an event today with Ryan Cohen on the taking the center stage, talking about how he resented company executives that rest and vest. That's that quote about not doing very much work and waiting until your options vest, and you can take advantage of that part of your salary without adding to the value of the company. So he made that point, and the inflection then is that it wasn't just the management that were in charge at the time of 2020, 2019, and the stock plummeting then, but he also wasn't particularly kind then about much of the progress that's gone on at the board level out with his own participation over the last while. And as we can see, GameStop then, after today, after that meeting, down 3.35%, continuing back down, trying to fill this gap. Doesn't matter how many times Ryan Cohen comes on the internet. Once it's made its way into the gap, if it isn't going to pull back out of it, then it will close it. In the 4-hour time frame, you can see that that would close in around 24.30. 24.84 it closed, 24.76 after market. Down to the 1-hour time frame, there's quite obvious downtrend with this rejection. Bearish engulfing candle within that, suggesting further continuation. 50 simple, hourly as small as meaningful, you've still not reached it. That's at 24.50, and if you do break that, you do have then support potentially at 24.20, and then 200 period moving average comes in at 23.10. But if you were to go back through a gap, exceed that to find a 200 period moving average and not hold 23.10, then I wouldn't imagine, you know, this tiny little gap at 22.69 is going to hold you. I'd expect you to come down for further retracement testing around 21.92. All of that's if you get continuation on the downtrend. But at any stage, it could pop back up. You could cover the center line on the RSI there, especially on the 4-hour. If you manage to bounce here while recovering it on the hourly, then it will be that you start pushing back up again. 25.71, your prior high at that peak 26, and then you'll be looking for 26.50. If you start making it back above 26.50, which is also these levels of resistance, you start doing that over here, then I'd imagine it'd be a short move to quick move up to 27 and change, and then if you were to break higher, your next extension on that same move takes you in line with what was your prior resistance, should it start happening now. So it wouldn't be totally out of the question to look for $30, and then you could get a blow off top, take it to 34, a linear trend turns exponential, and easy peasy Japanesey, right? So you recover that level of resistance there. Not a particularly good drawing, that one. You recover this level of resistance here, right? Price action does that, say you, but it's price action. If it breaks that previous high, then it'll be in this channel, breaks the basis line, then you'll be exceeding the wick highs from post market, and all of that will be exceeding the high that took you, you know, part of this linear trend. So it would be after displacement, you might look at a little bit of an exponential rise and be targeting $34. So 34 topside move if all goes well, and then breaking down, you can see, like I said at the start of the show, it could well be pretty low, below 24.70 at this stage. You know, post market's already taking you in that direction. You can tell it's a horizontal level on the bitsy tiny time frames, and across all of these, if it is a bear flag and drops a little bit more, not bear flag, but if it's flagging, pardon me. So that's what we're looking at with GameStop. What's the chat box saying? Grace Jew, Hustina, Lurkin, Lux, Sotos, Serrara, Hedge Hunter. Good to see you. Good to see you, folks. Great to see you. Look at all those cards have expired. Hey, the grey faces. And what else is up? Over on recent events. He has it. He's got it on the recent events. Here he goes. Jeez, $5 2 hours ago. Oh my goodness, I missed it. I missed it. L. Baker Matthews, $25 yesterday, says hey, thanks for Spy and Vix. L. Baker, you're a total angel. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Merrick, $10. Porridge penny still, but I'm making headway. I have more cash ready to trade with than I've ever had before. Great to hear it, Merrick. Sitting on 11,000. Woof, nice. Most have ever accumulated. Good work. Could you look at ZM and give me your thoughts? ZM, we looked at ZM yesterday, and you were very kind to me on Discord. Let's look at it. ZM. So strong moves there. Flashed back down at 68.98. 5-minute time frame. Strong recovery then. Let's see it on 4 hour. Put it in context. Yeah, so it's downward sloping resistance. A channel here. You're at the top side of the channel and touching 200 period moving average. Potential breakout trade on the go. Holding the 50 simple there in a 4 hour. Putting in a touch of bullish divergence. Looking back along the lows. That being at the basis line of the channel. Then testing the top side breakout trade potential on the go here. You don't necessarily have the momentum for it, but if it does break out, you'll get that. First target would be 85, 88. You manage to break above that, you would be looking to close this gap around 98. That starts at 88. So I wouldn't expect much time spent between 88 and 96. But it might take a while to get there, especially trying to break back above 85 and this peak in price action previously where you found the top side of the RSI 2 times most recently. So breaking that level wouldn't be all said and done with regards to the breakout. Breaking that 71, you would have to then go above 74, but then you'd be looking at 85 pretty much. If this the RSI pushes up into the bullish control zone and gives you a little bit of headroom, doesn't go completely oversold, and price action still looks like it keeps going, then you might see it push back up and close that gap. But that'd be one sharp move to do all at once, and typically a breakout trade would reach a level of resistance before finding a retest and then breaking out, having spent so long dominated by a downward sloping trend line. So you'd want to confirm this trend changed, perhaps by finding previous resistance, now support. And in the nature of this downtrend, you've only got so many areas of, support, previous resistance, now support. You've only got so many areas of that because this is a local high and the first of in a potential turnaround. It's still a downtrend with lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. It isn't like you've had a lower high in this area and then a higher high and then a breakout and you can retest the previous resistance as now support. You don't have that, so you'd be looking at your diagonal for support. If that doesn't hold, like price action is to exceed back inside this channel, then you've got potential displacement and falling down. So pretty dodgy, which means that really the best place to take this trade is here at that breakout of the downward sloping resistance, and then that 200 period moving average being the area it needs to break immediately to confirm that you're potentially in a good trade. You obviously want your stop in profit because, like I say, a retracement back below these areas would possibly suggest that it's it's just another oscillation high. The difference between for example this high and what you're potentially seeing here is that subsequent to that high you had a test of the basis line, which rather than falling through the basis line, which suggests like the overall tests would whereas like this went all the way through the basis line without even testing it as resistance. So when it came back to use it as support, it wasn't all that definitive with regards to the trend, right? Because you often gained lower high and then a lower low, which exceeded the previous guy. And that could again be the same situation that you're looking at, testing that basis line again. If you fail to definitively break out of this channel, I would anticipate that would be the way it would go. But that's what I'd be looking at. And if I was taking this guy trade on a breakout at the minute, I would also be conscious of the fact that it's a 50% retracement just to even get here. So breakout is from here is significant, and then 382 on this guy, a little bit of confluence with the resistance there as well as the downward sloping channel, which is why these things form in the first place. So nothing confirmed yet, certainly, but this is the place to look to take the trade because you can manage your risk right here, and you get confirmation. Perhaps you're waiting for confirmation of a breakout trade. I'm not sure if you're going to get that in such a bullish posturing, because again, you'd have to be putting in a higher high than this guy in order to change the trend. And until such times you do that, any retracement, especially when it doesn't have a horizontal support, could well go on down to that horizontal support. And if it does go there and your channel's still intact, you'll be looking at a test of the basis line, which again would be a lower low. So this trade is the place to take it if you are looking for a bullish move, because you can manage your risk, as opposed to the targets, which will still be the targets until such times as this thing breaks its support line within the downward slope inside the channel. It'll just be maybe 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3. Anywho, that's what we're looking at in zoom. Kitties, hi Jamie, can you do CVNA? I sold a bit too early on this move up. Too early? No such thing if you're in profit. Come on. So this is what we're talking about here with like the previous move. You know, you don't have the channel, but you do have the downward sloping resistance, and then you do have the prior high within the formation, which price action gapped above, which shows you it's an inflection point, and also potentially needs a retracement down into these areas to fill that gap, which isn't too fantastic because you've also got tiny little bits of a gap just below there at this level. You've got one down here again, and you know, that would be all well and good, only you'll be going back below a previous high in order to get there, and along the route to a diagonal trend line, which again you'd also have to probably exceed if you were to do it right now in order to fill this gap. So that's something to be cautious of, that price action could need to slip back within this channel, and if that's happening, it could be very much coming back to test this rocky outcrop flash, unless such times as there is a different phase of price ahead of it. But it looks very, very dangerous, and as such, you know, especially on a 4-hour time frame when you haven't actually broken above this peak, you've got questions about the strength of the move on this particular instance, and then even both these places, these two peaks on the RSI, they're not significantly different considering how different price is. And price being different, it's not just different, like, oh, it looks different. I mean, it's like contextually different in that you've exceeded this high in around here, which is very much divergent if you're looking exclusively at the RSI, not anything else. But look back period and the trend may have changed, so I wouldn't be putting too much emphasis on that particular point with regards to divergence. But I would be saying strength here is not emphatic. And if you do continue going and you're looking at 43 and then $60, what was the question? Looking to re-enter at 24-ish. Hopefully the retrace gets there. Sorry, it's only a fiver struggling right now after big losses. You don't have to apologize, sir. Kitty, sir. You don't have to apologize. Thank you very much for being so generous and regularly being generous. Appreciate it, buddy. So you're looking to get back into 24. That'd be quite a close move down. I mean, you really like this. I mean, just like if you were sat next to me and you were saying, oh, I'm thinking about this and whatever, I'd say, what, you like me? I mean, 24, that's not a retracement at all. The thing, like, most recently I put in a low at 18, 19, and it's been trending up and hasn't changed that trend since. So like a retracement, even to be called a valid retracement, you have to go beyond a 236, which would be 1987. So like you say, hopefully entering at 24. That's not all that different from just buying it right now with your eyes shut, to be honest. Like this most recent inflection point at 22, that was earlier on today. I mean, you've not done anything wrong there. The only thing that you might be doing wrong is buying it back too quickly. You've taken profit at a very smart time to do it. You've managed that trade very well. You're not going to make back whatever you've lost in before you reach the next little hill of difficulty in life. If it was a significant amount, I wouldn't try and focus on the loss. I'd focus on sustainable actions that you can control, which are wise, calm, and patient, which, having taken profit on this ticker, on this move, maybe it isn't this ticker you want to re-enter. And if you do, it would probably be back around some level of support. If I put in a horizontal, you'll easily get 24 if it happens before 20th of June, according to this guy. You haven't exceeded that previous high. You've not got the strength in the RSI. You are in the bullish control zone now. I'm not going to argue with it, but I'm not arguing with it. I'm asking you to argue with yourself, kitties. Do you really think that you want to be waiting? Like you don't want to wait? You want to jump into this? You know, There's so many potential trades on the go at the minute. Is that really what you're looking for? It may well be that when you're not looking for this to just come back a little bit so that you can feel okay with entering based on a position which will be emotionally relevant to the point you took profit on a previous trade. That's what makes 24 okay. And that's the only thing that makes it okay, is that you took profit already. So you don't want to buy it right now. You'll wait till it comes back a little bit. And that is not real patience. That's the devil on your shoulder. What you want to be looking at is like significant reasons to enter the thing, which would be it putting in an uptrend, going to a higher time frame, like the 4-hour time frame, looking for a strong level of previous support. That's this previous peak at $19.80. It's the breakout point at top side of a gap. So then, it's better value back down again at 16.29. And if you're talking about any sort of a significant position size, that's a 3. So to get to the top side of the gap, to get back to the prior highs, the previous resistance, now support, you'd have to go beyond a 236 at 1987. So you'd have to be retracing enough to call this a local high. So you would be then thinking, well, I mean, if it's going to bounce at 18 and change, right, you're going to take profit when it goes up a couple of percent and whatnot, because that's what that trade is. Otherwise, you're waiting for it to close the gap at 16.20. And when I say waiting for it to close the gap, you're waiting for price to close the gap, not sitting there with an order for it and then waiting to see what price does, because on this 4-hour, it's right next to the 50 simple at 15.15. That's you filling a gap, exceeding a gap, and only doing what might be normal, right? This is what I'd be looking at happening. Only doing it. And if it is doing that, there's another gap there. Why not just go and fill it? And then there's another one, right? Because you're doing this now. You're filling the gaps. That's 2 in a row. Take out the third tick, close that down at 11.92. That's 100. That's 50% off price action. And then there's another gap area. So that would be losing a 200 period moving average. All of this would look like you go to the daily time frame. You can see there it is like there's, at this stage, potential continuation divergence. Looking back, we talked about the fact that it was overbought previously. So you've got reversal divergence potentially, with this not being as high overall, this overall section is back here on the RSI, but being higher on price action. So, and this is a downtrend overall. So you'd have to wonder if it was going to be tested before anything increased. So that's what I'd be saying. I'd be saying, you've done well on this so far. That's not because this is the only ticker you can trade right now that'll make you money, or because you're in the zone with Carvana. That's not what it is. It's because it made a good move and you timed it well and you took profit at the right time and you traded well. And there'll be many, many more examples of that. But I'm not sure if you find the same example being at 22 on this thing, or 24, or what did you say? 24-ish, yeah, that Jeepers Creepers, that's very close to price at the minute. So, I mean, it's 25.95 post-market, down 1.63%. If it does another 1.63%, it'll be most of the way towards your entry. And it could do that in post-market and have no effect on structure. There's also a potential cross here on the daily with the 50 simple going through the 200 period moving average. That's a golden cross, and price action tests cross typically even more so if it's a golden cross and it's been persisting in bearish conditions for a long time. Like that cross was tested there, though they were very close. This test of these both moving averages quite a lot of times here after this recovery, and that wasn't a breakout. So I'd be very, very careful of that being a dodgy trade now. So I'd be careful there, kitties, very much. And we've got another one from Mr. Minner. Building the 6-month savings account, learning my strengths and weaknesses, growing wiser. And you're a huge part of that. Thank you, Jamie. Quick look at TUP. So, Tupperware and all cookery accessories. A tough time on the market, especially for Tupperware, but also for Pyrex and other pie pot makers. I am your resident pot pie making company economic analysts. So if you have any questions about any ticker, whether they be food accessories, fridge accessories, or otherwise, I'll probably be able to help you out. There's lots of gaps on this thing. The question is it going to persist lower than $1? Because if it is, they're going to get a delisting notice, which wouldn't be fantastic news to add to their current woes. Tupperware Brands announces receipt of notice of non-compliance, so they got it on the 7th of June. They're not compliant with the listing. They need to get back above $1. But then 7th of June. Okay, right. That was just in this little phase of price action. We just pointed that out. Expects to fall a 10K by mid-July. Okay. So potential bankruptcy on the cards if they don't reorganize and achieve compliance in order to get that volume and liquidity. They need to take them back up again. A top brand like Tupperware with a name like that, it should be doing well, shouldn't it? Here's the weekly time frame. Oof, that's brutal. Yup. In the bearish control zone. I mean, you've got a touch of bullish divergence, but is that enough? No. Daily, pulling out of the bearish control zone, and you've got loads of continuation divergence. So I'd be very cautious of that. Though if you are to break the 50 simple, you could head then to 134. If you get above 134, you'll probably test 175. I don't anticipate this closing the gap on its first move to it, and then, but if it did, it would close at 233. And if this was heading off the back of a squeeze play from, you know, bankruptcy traders taking it out of the box, boom, you would see it back at 3.82 again. You know, you would. So very cautious of that if I was looking down. Very cautious if I was looking down. There's a lot of reasons why it could bounce up. This strong move here now on the 2-hour time frame, you can see that it might not only be divergence, it might be, you know, if you, and then that 4 hour is not bad. You know, if on the 1 hour it can manage to reclaim the center line, then I wouldn't worry too much about the previous divergence. It has already done okay on these moving averages here. So yeah, maybe you are talking about that. 170, 180, 2 ducks. Well, it's a strong downtrend. Like this pointing this out on every time frame we've looked at, it's a strong downtrend. On the 30-minute time frame, now you've got a touch of question mark. But again, this is your peak in this leg of price action, right? It's distinctly different here and here. And again, this leg of price action here, right? That's distinctly different, and so on. And if you're to look across these three, you would say that it wouldn't worry too much about this one little. So yeah, price action is slightly different. You're back above a 50 simple, which itself is testing a 200 period moving average, and that hasn't happened. You know, all of this was below it, all of this was below it, and every time you got near it, it was impetus was to get knocked down again. So you're here and haven't been knocked down, and actually trying to recover it. So that's interesting. If you did head up 120, and then again 135, and then 180. Yeah, so 120, 135, 180. If you are breaking out, 15-minute time frame, I don't see that. You're a little bit lacking here on these tiny time frames on the momentum. So could well be that it falls over. You had strong impulse moves up during this downtrend that all got rejected at those important moving averages. So having recovered it for a while, RSI recovers a center line here and persists in that area. You will see a little bit of a rise, though I don't think that's the be all and end all that we've for TUP, but that's interesting. What else are we seeing on this that might be relevant? Yes, well, uncommonly low volatility for what this thing has been putting in recently. And I say recently, all the way back to end of March. So a touch of volatility potentially coming up. I'd wait for an expansion on them before I see anything more. But that looks all right. It looks all right. So anybody wants to ask me anything else, go right ahead. I'm here, happy to help with anything I can. Did we talk about SPY? I think we maybe skipped it. There's a fly somehow got in, probably because I had the front door open all day, it was roasting hot and whatnot. So a fly's got in, and Coco must have, it's like that Breaking Bad episode with Walter White. Coco's turned into Walter White trying to catch this fly, and she's not up for doing anything but that. But I think it knows. I think it knows what's up. SPY, yeah, so SPY, it hit these targets, right? A lot of people would be amazed at this TA. Anyway, if SPY came up and hit these targets, I'll turn the drawings off. Right, there's the, see where the drawings are? It's right where SPY got to. And that's pretty good TA. I explained why it would go there pretty well as well. People afterwards said, that was really good SPY TA, thanks. which I liked hearing. And there it is doing it. It's a target, you know, it's from this guy over here. That's what made that target. It's also a number of other reasons. Anyway, to get here, it had to be extremely overbought. If you're looking at the open interest, right, the node was 445. The high of the day on SPY was 443.90. But like, there was a node at 440, and the maturity today on that open interest was 440 by the end of the week, maybe 445. Any higher than that, you know, you're talking about significant changes in the marketplace. VIX, you got 4.47 on this thing because it's so low. You know, you can move like from 14, you can move a tiniest little bit, and you're getting a significant percentage chunk. Also, because of the nature of the open interest and the way what VIX is, you'd need a big pullback from 440 for that to go up a significant amount. And I don't know, is that happening right now? Not yet. Though it may happen tomorrow, lots of chances. CHWY is also doing all right considering, right? If a lot of people were interested in this, we did today on it, talked about the options. We even talked about specific option contracts. God forbid I ever do that again. And they're up over 200%. On CHWY. So anyone who took that is very, very wealthy. You're looking at, compared to what they were like before, potential Bollinger Band expansion again. That'd be absurd if it does, because then it'll go to 52. Currently at 40 at the minute. Recovered that 200 period moving average. The basis line of the Bollinger Band is approaching that 200 period moving average. Wouldn't like to break through both of them at once, or you would see a retracement. And the gap, 34 down to 31, easily could get filled because this thing very volatile. And, you know, you guys will all be closing your option contracts, which will slam down the price. Tesla held 250. Talking about other good trades, look at that for targets. Womp, womp. Tesla, it's got the logo, and it does that on the charts. And every time it does that, you know there's a potential huge move coming in. And this one, back to that macro downward sloping resistance. So there'll be a lot of people pleased with that. 250 on Tesla. I mean, well, there'll be also a lot of people devastated because they bought option contracts that were expiring too soon. So soon. And they told themselves it was because they couldn't manage tea over a long period of time. But in fact, in actual fact, it was actually that part of their brain telling them, you can get more at cheaper here because it's cheaper here because it's not as far away. So inflections, interesting takes from that. Root up 10%. It's hard to argue with Root. 200 period moving average. We said buy it when it was at $2 and change. And got messages from people who had first initially entered at 18, but again at 21, and it's due to the TA they've looked at here recently. They're now in profit, never having sold a share, so they own most of Root, probably doing all right. Though I would be saying take profit to that specific person because that's the way it is. Now that you've done such a good job. What else is there? I mean, I'm flying through the charts here. What would you like me to look at? Huh? Look. I've got a tan in Edinburgh. How often does that happen? How often does that happen? Once. It's happened once to me. So, yeah, Root. You're loving Root so much. You can't get enough of the old Root. Solo got 14%, haven't got 22% yesterday. 200 period moving average. All those targets, we went through all of them. Spoke about them yesterday. Bum, 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 bum. Went through all of them. Continuation of this trend. Nice to see it touching that 200, though the risk is definitely on and you're extremely overbought and you're very divergent, and that's a daily time frame, and you've made it to all reasonable people's take profit targets there. If it pushes back up above 1, then super funny, but I'll not have any more of it because I took it a profit. So what else? What else? Kitties, you never need to apologize at all, ever, sir. You're so generous. Like, you know, as relative to everyone else, you're very generous, sir. So you don't ever need to apologize. And if it sounds like I'm being insensitive or harsh when I give you my feedback on things, probably I am, right? I can't. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm being like that. Dollar boom. Is plug going ahead up from 236 and back down? Well, which 236 are you talking about? This isn't a 236. It's more of a 50%. 50%. What? He's got an eye for it. This butter guy. This guy. That's a 236. Probably looking at this one. Is it going to head up from here? I'd be looking at this 50% retracement rather than this as a 236. I mean, this is just an intermediate high anyway. with this other guy, and all of that together is part of the, in totality, is part of this downward sloping resistance. So I wouldn't be worried too much about these two guys and like taking fibs from them. I'd be much more interested in this high, and then also like within this trend, there was this previous low here, which like up the top here was a retest of this previous level. So I'd say also then what happened within this downward sloping trend at that point? Well, there was an inflection point where it found support and then found resistance. So I'd also then be looking across at what is, you know, Uno, DOS, and then due to that last test, 3 touches of resistance, and I'd say price action's at that now, and it's at a 50% retracement, and having gone through the 50 simple, it hasn't yet tested it. So if it does push higher, it's going to test 200 period moving average of 14 change, and if it doesn't, which is much more likely, then it's going to come back down to this 236 at 953, and then potentially you get something out of that. And if not, then you're getting a lower low because it's a downtrend, and that's what's been happening. Been going down a long time. So that's what I'd be thinking about. Plug it in, baby. Unreasonable Land, PO Box 24203, Edinburgh EH79GQ. Some genius lives there. United Kingdom. Minner, a membership gift. Some lucky sod's going to get that any second now. Thank you so. Lorcan Luke Sotos. What a gentleman. What a gentleman. What a gift from one gentleman to another. Thank you very much. Very much, Minner. Quite unreasonable, that PO. It's just totally unreasonable. Lord willing, this is the last time for the request. Well, if you try and send it via US mail, they'll have access to that PO box detail. The way it works in the UK is PO boxes aren't physical locations the way they are in America, where you go with a key and you open it up. They're a secret that you put in there so that it gets attached to your, like, there's some guy in an office and he's got all these lists of all the PO boxes, and they're actually your house. So he goes in it, he can see, like, this is being sent to this, and then he takes his own sticker out and he puts my house address sticker on top of it, and then it gets posted to me. But the only person in that, the only way that works is if you send it with the US mail, because if you use FedEx or UPS or Hermes, if you use Hermes for anything, the chances are it'll never arrive, full stop. But that's just, this is insane. But if you use UPS or FedEx, it's guaranteed it'll definitely not arrive because they don't know what the address means. They get it. There's like a way it works is that all the packages get dumped off the plane unless it's US mail, and it specifically says on it, send it with US mail via Royal Mail. You know, that also helps you get delivered. It helps me and you. So you have to put that both on it. Because what happens is there's a Royal Rumble when the plane empties the packages and the pilot just opens the back door and kicks them all out. And then all the posties run on just like a smash and grab, and they get what they can and they come back, and then they trade at the side of the airport. They trade packages and that. And everybody wants to come to Tradespotting's house. So like everyone's trying to take the trade, you know, but they don't know because they can't get access. So you have to put US mail via Royal Mail. It's all hard work, but it's definitely worth it because it makes me so happy, innit? So there you go. Be aware, USPS will not deliver your packages. United States Postal Services. I think they will, actually. I think that's only the United States Postal Services will deliver them. I think that's incorrect information there, Rocky. It's explicitly, completely the opposite. They're the only ones who will deliver the packages, is the US Postal Service. Unless you made a mistake, Rocky, but you've just said that. So for some reason, are you saying that because that's a fact? 'Cause it's literally, well, he won't do tracking on things outside the USA. Right, is that relevant to the PO box? Is that relevant to the PO box at all? Because that's the conversation we're having, and you've said explicitly the opposite of what I just took a long time explaining. So it's like completely the opposite of helpful. So are you at all sure in what you're saying? You're going to have to come back to the chat box, Rocky, and say 100% with regards to the PO box if USPS will ship to the address. Now, for that confusion you've entered into the chat there. So you have to say specifically, factually, if it will or not. Thanks. Zombie postal workers attacking postal plane. This is a true story. Hey, it's late, you know. Nobody wants Scotch whiskey. I'll have some Scotch. Oh, it's not Scotch whiskey. See, that's tautological. All whiskey that's Scotch is Scotch. And it's premium whiskey is Scotch, and the only whiskey that can be called Scotch is whiskey made in Scotland because we invented it. Now the Japanese are very good at doing it, But, you know, it's not like I'm out here using chopsticks to eat my neeps and tatties, is it? Right? That's cultural appropriation. It's a disgrace, isn't it? What are they like, eh? I'm so offended. And so it would be the same thing if they went to, like, you know, smoke a little fishy and... Okay, as I'm aware, I'm not sure what I said. I do not know if USPS will deliver a PO box. Need to find out from someone who's sent before. Yes, somebody who has sent before, who also lives in America. If you live in America and you've used the PO box before and it arrived, which a number of things didn't arrive, they got sent back, like the banana bread, the famous banana bread delivery. That was funny. We enjoyed that, didn't we? And you didn't, but I did. And what else? Yeah, so somebody from America has used the PO box. Australia Post works too. Yeah, Australia Post works amazing. Australians know what they're doing when it comes to post. Hey, why aren't you a member? Become one today. Yeah. So this conversation is very strange for a train show, but I'm sure somebody can help. The train got it there. Amazon delivery always makes it through eventually. Yes, that's true Amazon queen there. Tradespotting, can you look at DIS1 or I want a gap fill to the top side? Is it trending to the top side? You're talking about Disney. Disney, and you love it. Disney, here, this Disney, right? Disney, gonna save the world. Good old Disney, eh? And the world. Problem with Disney is, see how one of the Disney executives, I think it's the highest rank, is that the right word? Highest ranked female. Female's another word for women. The highest ranked women at Disney is on medical leave. I'm not always here, but I'm always here. Joe JS, love the gap lessons, love the RO indicators, love the show, love the sweatshirt, love the Doomslayers. What a legend he is. Thank you so much, JS. Appreciate it. $20 too, eh? Wow. So, you see this song, right? It's about me. That's the end of the show. Okay, that's what I'm going to do now using Disney. Right, how did Disney. So this is downtrend, right? This downtrend has been a very, very long downtrend. Oh my goodness. 94.80 is flash target to the top side. And there's a gap in around there. If that's the one you're talking about, Wiki Wilkes, yes, it's going to fill. Now, here is Disney. It's gone down since March the 21st. It's dropped about 57% since March the 21st. When in that same period of time, since March the 21st, we can see that SPY has gone up roughly 10%. So SPY and the economy and all stocks contained therein up 10%. Disney, one of the big heavy hitters within those collection of stocks, is down 57%. So it's been going against the trend in the overall market. And if the market breaks to the top side and continues to go as the direction it has been going, then Disney will have an outsized move to recover its median progression overall, because Ted's back in charge and Ted never fails. Also, Disney have got huge potential, massive potential. If you're able to, in your mind right now, decouple the idea of the metaverse from the idea of cryptocurrency, I'll be able to enter into your mind with the proposition that nobody has assets that will be as exploitable in the metaverse as to the level that Disney do. There's no comparison. Disney can immediately become the biggest gaming company to children. They can immediately become, more than just games on computers. They can use the metaverse and augmented reality. Disney can become a real experience for children over and above the stories, right? Which, again, driving a lot of money. And they're always going to, because the copyright expired a long time ago, yet they're still raking in the cash. So the fact that they're able to do that, and essentially because of Disney, the copyright laws have been screwed all over the world, suggests that it's probably going to protect that for a period of time. So I think Disney, a lot of potential. It could obviously fall down, but that was a lot of that you know, that is kind of my feeling of that is a hangover from when I was up talking about it up at $200 and how it could possibly fall down. So here it is, half that price, and I think represents a pretty good opportunity in some senses. We'll go through the time frames now and talk about it. Weekly time frame, you've got a flash back up at $180, and when it gets there, and that's what it's going to be like when it gets up to there. So if we're talking about a gap fill, then onto the daily time frame. This is such a good show, isn't it? Can anyone else do? Can you imagine a show like this? You know, it doesn't work if you think about it beforehand too. It has to happen all of a sudden. All of a sudden. Right, so you've got a potential bullish divergence across this. If it does break down, right, don't blame me, it's screwed. If it breaks down, it's going to $30, right? But if it doesn't break down, then trade Disney saved, and it doesn't look like it's going to necessarily go down right now, right? I don't even care if it's got bad earnings coming up, which I don't think it necessarily is going to be that bad, because they've done a really good job cutting costs. I think actually what you're looking at is like a little bit of volatility in and around this support level, and this thing's going to break up again. Here, I don't need that, you'll get out my face. And just from that peak then down to the low, a 236 would involve closing that gap, exceeding the 50 simple and the 200 period moving average. This most recent low on price action is bullishly divergent. Overall, that looks like a rounding bottom to me. On the 4-hour time frame, there's your gap, your flash at 94.80. That's 4% up from where you are at the minute. You have most recently come in and touched the top side of the bullish control zone and got knocked away. If you hold the center line, that'd be very good. If you hold in around that gap fill down below, is that a gap at 89.02? If it is going to retrace, that looks like a good area for it to go to. Any further, you'd have to hope for more bullish divergence, and you'd need it to hold this trend line, which is one of the things that's inspiring my positivity. So you will want to hold the top side of the bearish control zone if you do drop down. On to the hourly now. Spray dumb price action. Yeah, so you've got a little bit of a gap that's not completely filled there. Though you'd have to have superhuman vision to see it the way I'm showing it. Yeah, look, see, here it is here. Top side of it's at 89.40 and then 88.98. Bottom side, a little bit of a gap. So there on the hourly, it's also there in the 4-hour, and it could well be filled. And Disney does like to fill its gaps. Speaking of which is the gap you're probably talking about to the top side. Yes, resistance. So closed at 96. Open. Sorry, you'll reach it at 95, 94, 95, and then you'll close it at 96. Exactly 95.05, and then 96.6 here. Not bad. 60 that is. So you don't want that to be a peak the way I just drew it. You want the 50 simple to go through the 200 period moving average and the golden cross, as you've seen here. You would ideally like price action to cross that 200, come back down, really test both moving averages by going through it and recover them both, and then hold the 50 simple as it progresses up, and then price action, hold that 50 simple. You could afford 1, maybe 2 touches of the 200 period moving average if you do not exceed it, and then follow the 50 simple, which will rapidly increase its trajectory, because, you know, 50 look back periods on a 1-hour time frame, it's starting to take all these lows out of the game, and then you're only going to be adding to it if you're above it. So that's what you'd look for, and I think you're right that it will fill that gap. I think this cross is a good way to manage the entry. I think that gap's a good target on the initial part of your trade, which is a significant percentage chunk, and I think long term, perhaps across the next earnings band, we'll see significant further cost reductions in Disney and revenue ramping up, especially when they break into the metaverse. And I'm not saying the metaverse as maybe some people first understood it, but the metaverse as a place where assets that will be bought and sold, and those assets that will be bought and sold, I imagine Disney are going to have a lot of them. Hello, everybody. So thanks very much for that, Wiki Wilkes. I hope that was helpful information. Thank you very much, JS, for jumping in with that. And Bernard999, how's Tesla looking? Tesla, thanks for Bernard. Tesla, it's at resistance here. You know, you could get an inflection breakout, but $200, 200 period moving average, that does sound like an interesting place to go to. If you continue back above this downward sloping resistance, you'll target the rocket outcrop flash at 300. Looking at it on the weekly time frame, you can see why that downward sloping diagonal is relevant. Since the all-time highs, it's caught every peak down. Price action throughout that has been putting in this downward sloping trend, which obviously broke here, and you made a recovery back above a 200 period moving average when you came out of the bearish control zone. That allowed a change of phase where now you're able to put in higher moves on the RSI that exceeding all of these previous moves, even those which are still above price action, which speaks to the potential for continuation divergence. Now, that hasn't happened yet because you've not had a retracement in price action, but that's also true to say that you've made it into an area which exceeds all these previous highs, and price action has not yet made it back to those previous highs. So caution is advised. Also, you're at that downward sloping resistance, so very much caution is advised. The thing that took you here was an inverted head and shoulders, of which you've now played out the entire measured move. So caution is advised. The recent expansion in price is all being contained within this long-term formation, so caution is advised. And there's a 200 period moving average back down around the basis line 50 simple top side of it, so those haven't been tested since the start of this inflection. So to break that downward sloping diagonal before you test those would be uncommon, so caution is advised. And you did most recently break down below that 200 period moving average. You have not tested the basis line of the channel subsequent to going from the low to the high. So if you are looking at the earlier part of the video, you'll see the theory behind that, and much more likely for a breakout is getting a retest of the center line, then a breakout, that breakout being constrained by the highs at 300. If it did break further, you'd be looking at it testing back above its previous high around 420. That's what we're looking at on Tesla. Bernard, that's what you're looking at. That's the weekly. On the daily, strong uptrend, you know, very much overbought, and the moving average within the momentum indicator itself is in the overbought zone. So turnaround here is totally possible. And if it does start moving down at pace, would you be comfortable buying it? There's a gap that needs filled at 230. And there's others. You know, would you be comfortable? You probably wouldn't be as comfortable as you were in this relentless uptrend. And so the rest of the market would be the same. Liquidity to this buying it would dry up. People looking at to exit their trades will be adding to the selling pressure. And a test of the 200 period moving average at $200, which is the basis line, is the daily time frame. That seems like the sort of place where I would look again at a bargain potential, but I'd have to do the analysis at the time. I certainly wouldn't be entering here, even if it does break up. That's a crap trade. So that's what I'd be thinking, unless it is a breakout. But you're looking at a breakout from here. I mean, it's already that much overbought. How much more room is there to go? You could go up to like 120 or something. I mean, it is possible. What is it actually on the daily? The highest ever reading we've seen on the RSI on Tesla is 94. You're approaching that. 94. Twice it's got there. Three times in its history it's got higher on the RSI. Only 3 times in its entire history has it ever got a stronger momentum signal. The point to that is it isn't anything like those 3 times, and it's probably going to come back down. So that's what it looks like. Thank you very much, Bernard. That's appreciated. Cheers, my friend. Okay, thanks. Tradespotting. It tested the top of a gap and rejected. What did? Why does it always do this right click? I don't want to ban anyone. I don't want to do anything bad. I just want it to click. Oh, God, it's gone. Real time. Real time. I think it's called Ionic. Oh, my goodness. Ionic. Oh, Elon. Visually, a Tesla logo looks like the fallopian tube chart pattern. It does. Yes, that's what we're drawing it on here for. That's why we're drawing it there, isn't it? Yo, also look at these flashes here on the 5-minute time frame, right? I mean, that's exactly where price is obviously going anyway. If you've got like familiarity with price, you would have already said that, right? You know, and I did. And look at all these other flashes. Oh my goodness. So, you know, caution is advised on Tesla. That's what I'd say. Whereas previously we were thinking, yo, let's go. Tesla did. Yeah, Tesla knew it. Bulldog get it. Tesla got it. What did we talk about? We wanted to show you the Tesla fallopian tubes formation working out well. I mean, it's everywhere. This is the good one here. It all looks better when I squish price action together. Look at that, baby. Whoa. So it's better than a real Tesla, that. Not to 60. Nothing does that. Nothing's got the acceleration like a Tesla. Funny that phallic is much more commonly known. Which phallic? Is this people talking? You know, it's mine's world famous. World famous. I think it's called Yonic. Yeah, that's what you were talking about before. Now I get it. Yonic the phallic. Whose imagination is more valuable? Call spell checker comes down to imagination. Who has more imagination? But yo, majority ownership? Majority ownership? Well, that may be related to the GameStop chat. Ryan Cohen, I think he's approximately 12.1% of GameStop. Alan Natal also bought a chunk more. So I think we've covered everything everybody was looking for. It's now 10 to 10. We flew through the charts. There was loads and loads of value there. Even more if you're on Rocky Outcrop's Discord, you can join for free, but you should consider taking the paid side, because then you get it for the price that it is instead of waiting for that price to go up, which is what happens. Prices go up of things like that. So you should get that. Patreon.com/Rocky Outcrop. And while you get the Discord membership on the paid side, you also get, for the same price, you get the flash indicator, you get the toolkit, and you get access to Rocky now, which is pretty damn good if you're looking to do trades, I can tell you. Right, so take that, do that, join that. It's there for you, and people there trade better than people who aren't there. So do it if you're a serious trader. It's a strong recommendation, and I say it in a nice way, but if you don't join the Discord and I see you, you know, on every so often, and you've not got particularly great at trading, and you make little mistakes here and there, I think, like, what's this person doing? Like, they're losing money, you know, and you've got the ability to take risks. Brilliant, right? Brilliant. Put that to good use. Most people don't have it. Join the Discord. Take advantage of these things. There's also a course that you should be learning. www.technicalanalysis.school. But people find their way there when they know inside themselves that they should be doing it. So usually it's a little bit late. You should be doing it before you lose loads of money. This is also the thing that's quite annoying, and I don't mean this to anyone who sent me a message recently, right? But you know, someone did. And if you act like you're like, your idea is, I'm going to save up to take the course. That's no offense, right? But that's not the way it works, right? You take the course to get rich. You don't get rich to take a course on how to trade. That's not it. You take the course to get rich. And if what happens, like happened to this other person, is that they were good at trading-ish, they made a mistake they wouldn't have made if they take the course, and they lost all their money, and then they sent me a message asking, can they have the discount? Like, no, you have to commit to the things that will improve your life, right? Not take advantage of Tradespotting, having made the answer for you and made it good enough so that you'll be a good trader. You don't come to Tradespotting and say, can I have a discount? No, right? No, you know, because I didn't do a good trade. It's also a silly thing to say to Tradespotting, asking for a discount in Tradespotting. So don't do that thing. So what you should be doing is taking the course and then saying afterwards, I'm taking the course, and then Alan, you'll get extra attention. Nice wine. Yes, nice wine. Yes, and some nice wine. Yes, if you like wine, right? It's Nimlaws. You know, a classy gentleman over here, right? You know, this is Bordeaux, or you know, white wine, champagne, right? The Battle of Champagne. It wouldn't have been called that if they had to fight anywhere else. Did you know that? Had they had to fight anywhere else, it'd be completely against the rules to call it champagne. Quite like Scotch. Nice wine. Eh? I'm like those young teenagers, eh? I like that dry Malbec stuff. None of the Bordeaux, none of the fruity red French nonsense. Like, it's French anyway, but it's not. The best stuff's Argentinian, isn't it? Not sure I've seen those for a while. I don't even know, man. I don't know what booze. I don't know anything about booze. I don't know. Booze is bad for you. You shouldn't even think about booze. You know, snorkel's where it's at. Tips tea, bloody hell's right. So, yeah, popular in Philly. What? This is the Philly. They were talking about cheesesteaks now. What's popular in Philly is cheesesteaks, right? Cheesesteaks and fellowship and brothership. We'll put it like that. And open-minded, positive people. We've got a nice park. And cheesesteaks. This is all unfortunately true. Unfortunately true. See, I guessed, and I've never even been there. Amazing, right? Your stereotypes are quite accurate. Pardon me for being offensive. Thank you for watching the show. Thanks in particular to Nimlaws. $25. That is a nice wine. Holy shit, that'll get me a nice wine. $25. What a day. Haha. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Nimlaws, JS, 20 bucks. Thank you very much. Bernard, I hope that was helpful in Tesla. I'm happy to look at Tesla anytime. So if you're back at me and remind me, that's really appreciated when people put through donations. Thank you. Minner got a gift, membership gift for someone. Thank you, Minner. And donated. Kitty's also donated. Cheers. Merrick too. And then yesterday we had L. Baker. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you do see the chat box up there, it's on the screen, of course, but if you're looking at the chat box while you watch YouTube, the top link is to episode 2 of a podcast on Rocky Outcrop's channel. It's hosted by Sarah, and she interviews by the end of this, well, at the end of the long, fantastic, epic series, it'll be anyone. But at the minute, it's real traders just like you, and speaking in a way that I don't speak because I've traded for so long, that it sort of maybe somehow isolates me from the group in a way, not in a bad way, just the way it is. But these people, like, they're just like you and me, and you more, and they have got really honest opinions on what it's like to be a trader, starting, getting, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, and turning an account into something that you can use for yourself that's real and grows over your life. And sometimes, some of these people have got big accounts. So look at these things. I definitely think people should. I don't know if I would necessarily go out of my way to look for a trading podcast, because I'd often imagine the people to be stereotypes, but these people aren't. They're really nice people who you wouldn't necessarily look at and think this person's a trader. When you hear them talking, you think, wow, they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, I can do that too. And it's not just that I can do that too, because they're not saying like, oh, do this and do it like that. They're just being real people, just like you, and you'll notice what is it a real trader actually is. And it's the people on that show, and it's really fun watching it. It's really interesting. They're nice people. You'll enjoy it. Don't sleep on SCIX. Wow. On the short volume, SCIX. Here you got a ticker. Which exchange? I mean, you've got which exchange you talking? You're clearly not talking about the short sale volume from FINRA. You've got this as also it's just a barcode chart, like the JMEI chart. JMEI chart. Where is it? It's just a similar. You're looking at short sale volume on. Probably not what you're talking about. Hands down, Jeebus. BNB, I got it on Pancake. BNB, I got it on Pancake. B right back. B not back. B back. BNB. BNB Pancake. BNB. BNB is the exchange token over at Binance. That's surely not what you're talking about. Over at Pancake Swap. So BNB is at these lows. Is it going to bounce? Is it going to bounce? I expected the exchange tokens to do slightly better than they did, though they were quite positive. BNB. You're really looking at BNB. And you're buying it on Pancake Swap, huh? That's interesting. That you're not using Binance. So BNB is just going to do whatever Bitcoin does, and Bitcoin 25.5, strong recovery, especially in the last hour or two. This low, very dodgy here, bullishly divergent, suggested there was going to be a bit of a retracement, and that's not yet managed to break the downward slope and resistance. So, no change there. Trend still continues. But that being said, a strong lot of momentum there, pushing to the top. Are you even on he's on the chart? Have I got the chart? I have, good. So yeah, the momentum was divergent and all the rest of it. You covered 200 period moving average. There's perhaps a different phase of price action, but you did just put in a lower low. And if you don't now put in a higher high, or at least exceed that local oscillation at 26, that's not great for Bitcoin either, because continuation would take you in another lower low, which would be back below 25, maybe even as low as 24.7, 24.2, then 21.20, and all the rest of it. But that was a strong move there. So we'll see. BNB follows Bitcoin for the time being. SPY. Boom, hitting that target. I'm proud of that. That's not to say that this be all and end all has, you know, that nothing's happening here. It's all still about exceeding previous highs, and this is the next guy to aim for. If it doesn't get there, you know, as in it slips back below where we've come from and loses a 200 period moving average, at that stage I'd expect it to roll over and test support. But until then, it's bullish. And with the Fed pausing rate hikes, it may continue. The problem with the Fed's pause on rate hikes, now I can say it now that they've come out and paused them, right? They should not have paused them. They should have said, we're going to pause them next time because the data is giving us the opportunity now to pause them in future. That's what they should have said. But instead, they said, well, we're not going to raise them per rote here. What we'll do is we'll wait and see what the data says. And the data, of course, says the world is a little bit fucked because everybody knows that, right? You'd have to be lying about the data to say anything else. So then the Fed are like, well, you know, data says it's a little bit screwed. Maybe we have to stop, which is always what happens with the Fed when they stop too early. Is always when like, oh, the data says we need to stop, when they forget that the only reason they started raising rates was because the data was so bad. And they never initially raised the rates thinking this is going to make the data good. They knew it would make it bad. So it's really annoying. They call it a tightrope. It's not. They're stupid. And they shouldn't have paused, but they did. So what that means is now that they're going to have to, and it's going to look incoherent, right? It's going to look like an incoherent economic strategy from the US Federal Reserve when they next raise rates. It is stupid. It's stupid, and it's the wrong way to do it. And they've got plenty of example of someone making this exact same mistake before, and they've got example of somebody not making this mistake and explaining why they didn't. So it's really, really crap behavior. They're idiots, and they are the ones that are like, it's their stupidity that's going to cause spokes in this current trend. That isn't to say that it doesn't test 454 and then exceed it and go on to 466 and then 475 and then create new highs. But because of what they've done, and that they didn't just let things work their way out and come back here and have a test and go on, now it's going to have some horrible, horrible retracement in future. I don't know when it's happening. I'm not saying it's happening right now, but it's going to happen. And they're going to have ruined things again. They always do it. They do it every time. We said they would do it again, and they did. They cut the rates too early because they're chicken. That's what it is. They're chicken, and they can't start. And they say, oh, it's because they're trying to help poor people. No, it isn't. Do what you're doing. You're trying to keep your job. At this point, all they're doing is trying to keep their job. Yeah, and that they're not even elected. They're not even elected. But right, snakes in the grass. There's lots of snakes and vultures in that economy. There's everyone looking to get their job. Plus, there's like, you know what it's like in office cultures. There's like 4 or 5 folks that are all working together trying to undermine everybody that's above them. Plus management, what's that all about? At the Fed? Are you kidding me? It's everywhere. And the staff reports, that's SEC. Even worse. Oh God, what are they like with their crypto stuff at the minute? Seriously, they're like 5 years late and 10 years out of date. Honestly, like, we're going to regulate to make it safe. No, you're not. There's a whole planet with different areas of regulation. They don't need to be headquartered in the US. You know, most of them, in fact, aren't. It's so embarrassing. Like, I mean, America should easily be leading the industry in terms of crypto, but it isn't. It's like, actually seems to be anti-crypto at the minute. That's how incompetent they are. I don't think it is anti-crypto. I just think they're so incompetent. Like, Gary Gensler's talking about how, you know, there's certain things you can do to be, so that the SEC won't view you as a target. And from what I can gather, Coinbase had done everything needed. Like, and I'm not even in long in Coinbase, right? In fact, I ridicule some of the people who went long at Coinbase highs. But no names need to be mentioned because the big YouTubers in it. So, but like, they're ridiculous, and so is Coinbase. But like, nobody as much so as Gary and his cronies. What are they like? Honestly, it's pathetic. I thought he's supposed to be pro-business. I mean, what's he like? He says, oh, try to help consumers. No, you're not, mate. You're really not. Like, really not. I mean, they facilitated half of the crap that FTX did by giving them, you know... Anyway, everyone knows their political stations. It's like, we should be ending on a happy note. Yeah, we should be ending on a happy note. A positive note to end on. What would that be? Well, we can get this. That's not it. I mean, that's not bad retracement, but that's not it. Ride, 33%, eh? Not bad, right? Not bad at all. Came in, tested this target. We talked about it as potential. You got your bullish divergence off the low. You came up, you had a rocket crop flash at 350, and then it went up. I just see it at 410. 33% today. Not bad. A lot of people like MULN. This was a strong down move, but again, back to those sort of targets. You've had your split and whatnot, so there it is, 0.2616. and you've had your reaction 16% today. People love that. Look at this great news. Even Smile Direct Club went up a little bit, and this thing's a piece of crap, right? You nearly got taken out of that, but it's there by the grace of God. And then here you went up, you got you're in profit now. It's ridiculous. The Smile Direct Club, yeah. Anyway, get my face. So that's what that is. And then there's lots of other things that had positive moves. You know, if you like this, you like a little bit of catapult in the morning. That was a scary retracement there, and then extremely overbought, and it recovered anyway, having recovered above the 200 period moving average. So now if it does exceed this high at 0.78, boom, you can see it push all the way back up to 150. That'd be amazing. Wouldn't be jumping in on that. It's definitely a moving trade. So that's a great note to end the show on. Thanks everybody. Hit the like button, become a member, and support the stream. It's not expensive. It's just so that your name shows out more in chat, and it's kind of like, you know, the sort of thing that it's just like a cost of doing business. You just become a member of a YouTube channel. Let's just do that, and then you should upgrade to the top membership. And then you should join my Patreon, because that's where you get the best GME updates and direct access to me. And then if you want all of that and more, you should join Rocky Outcrop's Discord. Definitely on the paid side, you get the best possible experience. It's well worth the money, and you should also be taking the course. And above all of those things, well, no, you should be taking the course above everything else. And then next, you should be hitting the like button. But you should definitely be taking the course. And if you haven't taken the course, right, there will come a time in future when you take a trade, it goes wrong. And I can tell you now that it probably won't happen if you take the course, and it probably inevitably will at some point if you don't, and it could be the one that takes you out of the game. And do you want that to happen? No, because that's way more costly. So take the course. See you tomorrow.